Atheism is a doctrine of irrationality. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Terence McKenna, who used to be a psychonaut, a philosopher of sorts,
Right.
deep into mushrooms, nevertheless, he said one thing that was amazing.
Mm.
And he said that science operates under one premise,
Mm.
grant us one miracle, and we explain the rest.
Okay.
Which means give us the Big Bang. Poof.
Right.
That's a miracle that they're going to accept.
Okay.
Right?
That's true. That's a good point, right?
Yes, it's a great point.
Because how did the Big Bang come to be, right? Where
Right.
did that come from, right?
So this is not what we're going to question. We're just going to accept it as a miracle, poof, and then we're going to explain the rest.
Right.
Expansion of the universe, right? Time and space and whatnot.
That's a good point. When you ask an atheist, okay, but where did it all start? They never have an answer.
No, with the Big Bang.
Big Bang. So who caused the Big Bang? And according to, scientific research, something doesn't happen from nothing, right? So there has to have been somebody or something, whatever you want to call it, that initiated the Big Bang. And the Big Bang came from what? Because nothingness can't make something, right?
No.
So when you go take it back that way, they'll have to then either say we don't know, or they'll say, like you said, there was one miracle, and then after that, no more.
Exactly. After that, no more. It doesn't matter, right? How existence came into place in the first place. Yeah, anyways, this is why it is irrational to begin with. There is no origin, there is no cause. And even within that sentence, they're going to explain why, they're going to explain how. There is no real why. Well, they're not going to explain why. They're going to explain how potentially on a surface level.
And those are all theories, right? If you talk about Big Bang, even if you talk about the expanding universe, these are theories.
Of course.
One of the things that annoys me, because I work in the scientific field, I work with medical devices, and we do clinical trials, and is a lot of atheists feel as if science is their like proof.
Is their God.
Yeah, exactly. So, but they're still blindly believing. It's not like they saw evolution develop. They didn't see the Big Bang. They didn't, when they tell us, have you seen God? Well, have you seen evolution? Have you seen the universe expanding? And everything they're basing it on is what they have read from somebody else.
Exactly right.
And somebody who's not a prophet, who doesn't have any divine source, doesn't have any miracles in the sense that we would talk about a religious miracle. So, like Darwin, like Charles, if you look at Darwin and his theories, I've read a lot of his works, and not just a couple. I've read a lot of his works, and people don't realize how racist he was. First off, even though, to be fair, I think he did have a disdain for slavery and what was going on. So in a way, he was less racist than others. But if you read his later works, especially when he talks about the evolution of different species, he felt his own Caucasus race was more evolved than the pygmies, who were less evolved, hence these being higher. And he had these, ridiculous ideas about measuring people's heads and developed, which were actually scientifically off as well. So if you're going to take Darwin as your core belief of how humanity developed, then understand you're also taking a very racist view.
Sure.
He also had a very sexist view. He felt that, if it wasn't for the certain needs for women, quote unquote, men would have outpopulated them and outdone them because they're superior, because physically and mentally and all these things. So today, if I say these things, if I said it, I would get canceled.
It's Darwin.
But this is Darwin's statement, and people don't read, into his writings. They just think, oh, Darwin figured it out. Well, if you're going to go with what he figured out, then you also believe in a racist, sexist ideology.
Right.
So science doesn't disprove God. Like, this is such a wrong concept. In fact, I would say to the opposite, because if you put a hypothesis forward of where humans came from and how we developed, the hypothesis that this came from nothing with no intelligent design and no designer, no developer, nobody to guide the evolution of species is less likely than the hypothesis scientifically that there is a creator. We give the easy example. If you look at this phone right now, and I tell you, this used to be an iPhone 10, and it evolved into a 13.
That makes sense.
That would be nice, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to buy a new phone, right?
There's a 13 on it. So.
Right? So, now when you look at that and say this evolves by itself, you wouldn't believe me. You'd be like, this guy's pulling my leg. He's joking. He's crazy, because they don't just evolved by themselves.
Right.
But no doubt the evolution that people talk about amongst humans and animals is more complex. So then you would have to say, okay, well, it couldn't happen by itself. And then they would say, no, this is natural and that's unnatural. What does that mean? I mean, if you look at the human nervous system, it's so complicated, so amazing. When you study science and you study biology and you study anatomy with an open mind, you really believe in God. I mean, your iman, your faith gets strong because you look at even how a human body fights off viruses. How every day we're running into bacteria. We have white blood cells. Who would program something so amazing? How could you possibly think this came from nothing? So okay. So we're done with atheism. Where did you go next?
I would just like to say that to finalize atheism, that's an ideology of despair because it is not based upon an ultimate truth. As you said, it's an assumption first and foremost, but moreover, you're basing it on something whilst you're not believing in an absolute truth.
Right.
This is what crushes atheism for me. Because if you say there is no God, then by default you have no right and no wrong anymore. When you look at Sam Harris, which is like a famous atheist,
Right.
he opened up a famous speech of his and said, I don't have to explain to you that we shouldn't poison a well in Africa. I shouldn't have to explain this to you. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Why not?
Yeah.
So if you go by the ideology of Darwinism, survival of the fittest, etc., and the white man is superior anyways,
Right.
just go there, poison them all, take their land, done.
Of course.
Well, it has been done anyways, so
Right.
go on with that.
Right. And
What's wrong with it?
what would be a justification under a evolutionist's mindset of atheism not to enslave other people?
Exactly right.
If you are further up on the evolution chain, and for example, if we were to say, you know what, let's kill off disabled people.
Yeah.
Let's kill off anybody with a genetic disorder in their family. Let's kill them off so they don't pass those genes of disease further on. How would you justify that being wrong without any divine moral code?
Exactly. You would do that in dog breeding, and this is what has been used for eugenics and later on as well.
Right.
So yeah, you just take what is favorable to your subjective standard.
You take a really strong, big guy, and you're like, you impregnate all the women.
All of them.
You weak guys, sorry.
Like Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyways, that's exactly what it boils down to. So you don't have right and wrong then.
Right.
But at the same time, this society that is atheistic will tell me what is right and wrong.
Right. And that'll change. Right.
That will change all the time.
I mean, when I ask I had a video where I said there's no such thing as a moral atheist. And I got all this, hatred back.
I'm moral. They want to be moral.
Right? I'm
Why?
moral. I'm atheist.
Why? Who cares?
Okay, well, what does that mean you're moral? Okay. Do you believe in the death penalty? Well, I have atheists that will argue all day long that the death penalty is immoral. And another atheist will say, no, it's perfectly moral. You killed somebody, you murdered, we don't want to pay taxes and keep you alive. Your death is bad. So now, this atheist is immoral to him, and this atheist is immoral to him. So they're both immoral according to somebody else's standard.
Right.
So where's the standard?
Yes.
If you look at abortion, I mean, there's people who will argue all day long, this is murder. There's other people who will argue all day long, this is a woman's right. So what's the moral stance? Euthanasia. You're old, you're in pain, you want to kill yourself. In majority of the world, that's illegal. It's immoral. Many countries, especially in Europe now, they're like, you know what? It's okay, kill them. We don't need them in society, right?
They created a pot now. Have you seen it?
No.
A death pot.
A death pot.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can live in the pot in China, or you can die in the pot now. You just go in there and then you press the button.
Wow. So that's interesting.
Good.
Now, it's a suicide, and you're facilitating it and saying this is moral.
Yeah, that's good.
And everybody will have their own morality. So, slavery. We talked about slavery a little bit. In America, there was a time when the majority of the population thought slavery was moral and they used it. And there was a time when the country fought itself, the Civil War, over other issues too, but slavery being one of the major issues. So a good part of America went to war saying, no, this is morally correct. So now, if you leave morality to society, then again, nobody's moral because every society will judge other societies to be immoral.
Exactly.